Good evening. Today is a great day because we just completed the Tractate Yevamot, which is one of the largest tractates we ever studied. It was so long and we covered so many things that I couldn't even keep up with everything. You know, we cover, we talk a little bit in the Tractate Yevamot about Alisa, we talk about Jibum and different things. But this Tractate Yevamot basically focus on the Allah and Levirate marriage. These include forbidden and disqualified marriage. Those women who relationship are forbidden to certain man by Torah law or by rabbinical law. Also in this tractate, it serves as a source of various aspects of forbidden sexual relation, as well as for the Allah a convert and conversion, and the definition of separation between man and wife. In this tractate, we also learn about the concept of Jibum, which is a man, when he died, is brought without children. The Torah commands his brother to marry his widow in order so that his name not be obliterated from Israel. In this concept of Jibum was known to ancestors before the Torah was given to us in Mount Sinai. In this tractate, we also talk about the prohibition of marriage with strangers. We know that if you are Jewish, you don't need to go outside and marry with a Gentile who don't practice the same faith that we practice. Although the wife of the dead brother is known as a widow, she's not permitted to marry anyone other than the husband brother, as long as there is a jibum, as long as jibum is possible. We also talk about alisa. The Torah also provides a mechanism at which the widow can be released from her attachment to the brothers in case they refuse to marry her, and also if she refused to marry them also. This procedure is known also as alisa, the taking off of the shoes. I want to take this time to thank everyone who join us every day in the study of the Yomi. I want to thank Rabbi who spent a lot of long hours preparing this lesson them and bringing this to us and helping us to understand more about Torah, and for we to be able to learn more and able to grow more in the word of the Holy One of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. I don't really actually need all of these, but I thought I'd bring them up just to kind of give you an idea of what we just dealt with for the past 122 days. This is Tractate Yevamot, all 3 volumes in the Talmud. It's a lot of work that we've had to cover on a very, very difficult tractate. I want to thank Rabbi Weisblum. It's here every morning, 6 a.m., along with all the various students that come to join us for studying Daf Yomi. We've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and it's amazing how much we've already accomplished. It's just wonderful. I'd like to also dedicate this Siyum to a very good friend of ours who passed away during the study of this tractate, Larry Wolf, who was who used to join us for Daf Yomi and was a big part of our Monday night Chavruta program that we're participating in right now. Also, I'd like to just take this opportunity to mention that it's also my mother's birthday, so happy birthday, Mom. We have 2 reasons to celebrate here, both the completion of Yevamot and your birthday. So I'd like to start, as Gilbert mentioned, there's a mention in Torah regarding taking a wife in Yibum, and it's found in Devarim, in Deuteronomy 25, and it says, Ki yashvu achim yachdav umeit achad when two brothers live together and one dies, umehem uvein ein lo lo tiyeh eshet hamet, and he has no child, the wife of the deceased shall hamet hachutza leish zar yivama yavo aleha ulechacha lo leisha v'yivama. And the child, and he has no child, the wife of the deceased shall not be wed outside to a strange man. Her yavam, or brother-in-law, shall cohabit with her and take her. It then goes on to explain that the purpose of this is that so that the name of the brother would not be blotted out from the nation of Israel. The firstborn would then be would essentially be the continuation of the line of the brother, and that's the purpose of the of this marriage. Of course, then we also understand it goes on to explain that when he chooses not to take her in Yibum, she performs chalitza by removing the one of his shoes and spitting and announcing publicly that he has chosen not to take her and has chosen not to continue the name of his brother in the nation of Israel. The tractate starts out with a very interesting discussion in that essentially we have conflicting mitzvot that we're dealing with right here, and that we're first told in Torah that that one of the forbidden women to take as a spouse is the wife of your brother. And here in this situation, the wife of the brother, you are actually commanded to take the wife of your brother after he has passed in order to continue the line in Yibum. So there's a discussion as to how we handle these conflicting mitzvot, and ultimately, essentially, making a logical trail to show that Yibum is a valid mitzvah and that it should be performed. But there are only certain instances where it can be performed, and the rabbis have done that because there are certain women that are forbidden to the man, to the Yavam, to take in Yibum because they have a certain relationship to him, and the penalty for that is karet, the cutting off of the soul. So we certainly don't want anyone to be placed in that position. We also we go on to determine which of these women Yibum actually applies. As I mentioned, it doesn't apply to all of them. So we had to learn which ones they were, and there were several rabbinic decrees that were made. Most cases, out of compassion for the situation that the wife was placed in, understanding that there is a type of a bond between the man and his sister-in-law. Once her husband is passed, once his brother is passed, there is a bond which is called a zikah bond, and therefore something has to be done. He either has to take her in Yibum or has to release her in chalitza. And the rabbis decreed that he can also, that if he gives a get, that's also acceptable. Which is he can divorce her even though he may not have cohabited with her prior to that. It goes into a long discussion on the various rules of marriage. Erusin or Kiddushin, the various stages of marriage, including the ketubah and so forth, marital property. And the tractate goes on and ends with a long discussion of how we deal with a situation where a woman's husband has passed away and there's not necessarily sufficient evidence to prove that he has passed away, and how we handle it. And generally, again, we find that the rabbis always try to rule in this situation very compassionately for the woman, because we're in a situation, if we can't prove that the husband has passed, she really can't remarry another man because she's still married to him and he can't give her a divorce. So the question is she's essentially almost in a state of limbo, not being able to marry, go on with her life and so forth, but her husband's not around. And the rabbis would tend to, in this situation, rule leniently in that they would want to allow her to move on with her life. And if needed, marry someone else. So again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to study this very long and difficult tractate, and especially Rabbi Weisblum, our teacher, our Rav, for an amazing job of teaching us every day Talmud, and we've learned so much, so thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the special occasion of the Siyum of Tractate Yevamot. I'd like to wish Yasher Koach to Rabbi Weisblum, to David Siyum, Gilbert Gonzalez, and Catherine Davidson, who tirelessly every morning wake up and sit and learn the Daf Yomi tractate day in, day out. And I'd also like to follow up on what David said about our good friend Larry Wolf, who passed away a few months ago. I remember distinctly when he came with us to the Siyum Shas a few years ago, and how I personally was really inspired by the Siyum Shas, how people dedicated every 7.5 years, day in, day out, to learn. And I see that today, and I see that the learning basically strengthens the community and is really the backbone of the community. I just want to, as David and Gilbert expounded so beautifully on the ideas that are in the Masechת Yevamos, I want to share with you, number one, a piece or a portion of Masechet Yevamos that I found interesting, and also I always try to tie in Masechet Yevamos or the Masechta that we're learning to the weekly Parsha. And I'll start with that, and then I'll go into and expand upon the Mishnah that I'm going to pick in Masechet Yevamos. This week's Parsha is Parshas Yisro, and we just finished learning about the Makos, but Parshas Yisro basically has the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, and the Aseres HaDibros are basically the backbone of the laws that we follow, and from there the rabbis expound upon different explanations of the Torah. And in Pirkei Avos, which is learned we learn one parak between Pesach and Rosh Hashanah every Shabbos. We learn a different parak. It says, in Parak Rishon, it says, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem Chelek Le'olam Haba. It says that all Israel has a share in the world to come, as it is said, and your people are all righteous. V'yamcha kulam tzadikim le'olam yeshu aretz neta matayim aseh yedei l'tvaer. They shall inherit the land forever. They are the branch of my planting, my handiwork in which to take pride. And the first excerpt of Parak Rishon says, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Moses received the Torah from Mount Sinai and transmitted it to Yeshua, and Yeshua to the elders, the Zakenim, the elders to the prophets, and the Nevi'im who were sorely entered Knesset Agdola. And the prophets transmitted it to the men of the Great Assembly. And the men of the Great Assembly, basically, they said three things. Hamidu Talmidim Harbe, be deliberate in judgment. Be deliberate in judgment, develop many disciples, and make a fence around the Torah. So the idea of expounding upon the laws of the Aseres HaDibros, making a fence around the Torah, is referenced here. This is one of the sources for that. Now that I explained or tied in generally to this week's Parsha, I just want to expound upon one short portion of the Mishnah on Parak Daf Kuf Yudchet Amud Beis 118b. It talks about there are many disputes between Rabbi Dr and Rabbi Akiva, the sages, and one of them is if one married one of 5 women, and he does not know which one he married, and each one says he married me, he gives a get to each one, and he places the kasuva, the payment, between each one, and then he withdraws it. These are the words of Rabbi Tarfon. And Rabbi Akiva says, this will not extricate him, it will not free him from transgression. What he needs to do is he needs to give a kasuva payment to each and every one of the women. That's what he needs to do. And there's a similar case, if one stole from one of 5 people, he does not know from which one he stole, and each one says he stole from me, then Rabbi Tarfon says what he needs to do is he places a stolen object between them and he withdraws. Well, Rabbi Akiva takes a stronger view and he says that won't extricate him from transgression. What he needs to do is he needs to pay the value of stolen object to each and every one of the claimants. So this is, Masechet Yevamos is a very complicated tractate with many different laws. And we learned Eruvin is one of the most complicated tractates, Yevamos, and then Maseches Nida at the end of the Siyum Shas, at the end of the cycle of the Shas, is one of the third book, which are considered basically one of the most difficult books. And these laws are interesting, but they're very difficult. But the more difficult they are, it's the more challenge and the more scar you get. So I think that it's very befitting that we finish this tractate on a day on the week of the Aseret and also on the week of Rosh Hashanah. This week is the Rosh Hashanah Leilanos, Tu B'Shvat. So I think it's very, very befitting, and may we continue on the next tractate Kesuvos, continue to learn and continue to delve into all the tractates, and God willing celebrate at the Siyum HaShas. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. Good. I want to thank the rabbi for all the work and study and effort he puts into this Daf Yomi program. I also want to thank all the students who put in their effort and time to study with him. And especially David Siyum, I want to thank him for all the work he does to help present everything for YouTube. The section I want to talk about is a very basic one. I'm particularly interested in Bereshis. So this relates to Bereshis very directly. The Tractate Yevamot gives at least 3 versions of comments from the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel on what's the minimum requirement to satisfy, be fruitful and multiply. It commences with a statement in the Mishnah that Beis Shammai says you have to have at least 2 males. Beis Hillel says it has to be a male and a female. Beis Shammai's stand is based on the fact that it says in Chronicles, the sons of Moses, Gershom and Eliezer. The reason why it says in Chronicles, they use the reference apparently, is because in the Torah it doesn't always list the female descendants. Chronicles they do. So that's why Shammai apparently goes by that. Beis Hillel goes on the 1 male, 1 female criterion very simply. From the beginning, he created Adam and Eve, Hashem. So that's the basic requirement. Then there's 2 other versions that are brought in from Baraisas, 2 Baraisas. One Baraisa says, Beis Shammai says, 2 males and 2 females are required. And again, Beis Hillel still says male and female. Now, what's the reason why two males and 2 females? That gets into a little bit of esoteric reasoning. In Genesis 4:2 basically says, now the man Adam had known his wife Eve, and she conceived, and she bore Et Cain. That Hebrew word Et, it's particle Et. And it also says, and she added giving birth to his brother Et Abel. Again, particle Et. This is not translated here. It's left as Et because there's a school of biblical interpretation that says whenever Et occurs before a name like this, before a noun, it requires further explication. And in this case, the explication is that Cain was not born alone and Abel was not born alone. They each had a sister. So that's where you get 2 males and 2 females. And now where the argument is further strengthened is, again, later on in Genesis, it says, God has provided me with another child in place of Abel, for Cain has killed him. Since Abel's place had to be filled by Seth, the implication is less than 2 males and 2 females would not be enough to satisfy the requirement to be fruitful and multiply. Then there's another Baraisa that says
Beth Shammai says the minimum requirement for mitzvah procreation is one male, one female. Probably going back to Rashis. But Beis Hillel says either a male or a female, just one child, male or female, doesn't matter. The basis for that is from a statement in Isaiah. Apparently, he created the world not to lie empty, he formed it to be inhabited. If you have at least one boy, one girl, it's inhabited. I found this very interesting, this particular section, because it goes back to some very basic material. And again, I want to thank Rabbi Weisblum and all the students involved with studying with him for all the work and the effort that they bring to this job.
Oh.
Wow. Shakoach all. It's a very overwhelming, wonderful moment. Thank you all for being here. It's a journey of 122 days. Yesterday we studied something, a just short phrase. Tanya Amar Rabban Gamliel Pam Achat Haiti Me'alech Basfina. It's a story that the Rabbi Gamliel told us. One upon a time I was traveling in a ship, and all of a sudden I saw a big boat that was being shattered and was sinking. And I was pained with the thoughts of a Torah scholar that has been on that ship and was not, it's now or surely lost. Umanu, who is the name? Rabbi Akiva. Ukshi'aliti la'yavasha, when I came upon the dry land, Rabbi Akiva himself, he came and he sat and deliberated before me a matter of law. Amarti lo, I said to him, Bni, my son, who raised you? Who brought you upon you here at the water? Amar li, he said to me, Daf shel smina nizdamen li. A board, a daf from the ship presented itself to me, and I took hold of it. V'chol gal v'gal, and before every wave that came upon me, I bow my head and pass it over. So, homiletically speaking, the great Moshe Shapiro, who invented the idea of study Daf Yomi, a page in a Talmud every day, he took that beautiful idea and used the term of euphemism to explain to us the idea that we live in a shattered world. We live in a world that you wake up, you watch the horrible news, and you have a hard time to pass the day. That's the, homiletically speaking, the gal v'gal, the every wave that come upon me. Rabbi Akiva, as we all know, he went through a big change in his life when he made a decision to involve in life of Torah at the midlife crisis. He changed direction involved with this. So here, this great Rabbi Meir Shapiro, the inventor, the Rav of Lublin, who invented the idea of study daf, a page in the Talmud every day, he said, that's the secret of survival. Because here I have this daf, a board from the sfina, from the boat, who is the makel hatzalah, who is the one who, because of that, I was able to survive all the challenges. And the truth is, when we are here early in the morning, even it's a freezing snow and ice outside, or it's a challenge to be here, and we are here together study, it brings not just to us, to the world of those who watch us, a great and a better message of future. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Chanina. This is a last part, and I ask you later to join me with this. It's a statement that concluded 4 tractates in the Talmud. Talmidei Chachamim Arbim Shalom Ba'olam. The rabbis, the Torah scholars are the people who increase peace in the world. Shene'emar, because it said, V'chol banaich limudei Hashem v'rav shlom banaich. They use the term banaich, bonaich. This is the Isaiah 54. Bet Nun Yud Chav Sofit is the abbreviation of 4 tractates that completed with this line. Brachot, Nida, this tractate Yevamot and Kritut, this important 4 tractate that completed with this idea that we are the builders, we are the contractor that building, and we are building the real future, not only for our people, but the real future of the world by studying every single day the Daf Yomi. Hadran la Haisha Batra Uslika la Masechet Yevamot. Now we have this tradition to say Hadran, which is we promise that we will return to study this tractate, and we ask God for help, for ourselves, for our families, for our people, and for the world. הדרן הלך מסכת יבמות והדרך עלן. דעתן לך מסכת יבמות ודעתן לך עלן, ולנשם הלך מסכת יבמות ולנשם מנהל ודעת מעדן ולדעת מעדעתי. הדרן הלך מסכת יבמות והדרך עלן, דעתן לך מסכת יבמות ודעתך עלן, ולנשם הלך מסכת יבמות ולנשם מנהל. לה בעל מעדן ולא בעדעתי, הדרן הלך מסכת יבמות ודרך עלן, דעתן לך מסכת יבמות ודעתך עלן. לא נשם הלך מסכת יבמות ולנשם מנהל, לא בעל מעדן ולא בעל מעדעתי. רסום פניך ולרותנו שתי תורתך ומנתון בעולם הזה ותהיינו לעולם הבא. We ask Almighty God to help us study Torah in both, in this world, and it's part of our belief of the afterlife. Here is the name of 10 sons of great rabbi by the name of Bar Papa, and there are several interpretations. The common one is that that was the man that reconciled conflicts, so they use the name of the 10 sons that involved in those conflict resolution throughout the Talmud. And here are the names: Hanina Bar Papa, Rami Bar Papa, Nachman Bar Papa, Achai Bar Papa, Abba Mari Bar Papa, Rafram Bar Papa, Achish Bar Papa, Surchav Bar Papa, Ada Bar Papa, Daru Bar Papa. The next one, we ask God for help in studying, understanding, and distributing Torah to the world. וצאצאנו וצאצאי צאצאנו עמך בסדר ונדרש מכבד ותוכל לשמע מאויבי תחכמני מצוותיך כי עולם ליבי תמיד בחוקיך למען לא יבוש ולמה נשכח שכבודך כבר מחיתני ברוך אתה אדוני למדני חוקיך אמן 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 סדר להם. מודים אנחנו לפניך נעלו אבותינו ששמת חלקנו מיושבי בית המדרש ולא שמת חלקנו מיושבי קרנות. We thank God for being part of people who study every day and not be part of people who waste their time in vanity. שאנו משכימים והם משכימים, אנו משכימים לדברי תורה והם משכימים לדברים ביטלים. We wake up, arise early and they wake up earlier. We wake up to study Torah and they wake up in for things that doesn't make any sense, for vanity. אנו עמלים והם עמלים, אנו עמלים ומקבלים שכר ואין עמלים ואינם מקבלים שכר. There is a two type of labor. Those who know in the business, they know that there is a labor that you get the reward if you're a salesman, only if you bring some sales. Otherwise, you don't get your salary. In the Torah, that just by the labor itself, you get the reward. You attend class, even you sit there, you have no clue. By being there, you get a reward. אנו עמלים והם עמלים, אנו עמלים מקבלים שכר, והם עמלים ואינם מקבלים שכר, אנו רצים והם רצים, ורוצים בחיי העולם הבא, והם רצים לבאר שער של מר בתר, תורידם לבאר שער, עד אנשי דמים ולמר ויחצו מהם ואני אפתח בה. We ask God for help in the future. ירצון פניך נא אלוהי, כשם שעזרתני, עזרתנו, לסיים מסכת יבמות, כן תעזרני להתחיל במסכת וספרים אחרים ולסיימם, ללמוד ולמד לשמור ולעשות וכן את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך בעבר, וזכות כל התנאים והאמוראים תלמידי חכמים יעמוד ולזרי, שלא תלמוד התורה מפי ומזרי וזרע זרי, התורה תתקיים בי ותלכך תנחה אותך, וישבך תשמור עליך והקצות את השירה וכביר עליך וסיב לך שנות חיים. ורחמים בימי עושר וכבוד, אדוני יעוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך אותנו בשלום, יתקדש
יחם לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי